Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the north corner of the map playing in blue we've got Sassy playing as the Mongols, and his opponent in the south playing in red we've got Valdemar playing as the Abbasid dynasty. Welcome everyone to Rocky River. That's the map for today. Great map for these two civilizations. Of course, the Mongols are a really strong civilization, have been for a while, but I say strong civilization. I've got to say, actually, to be fair, a lot of the other civilizations have caught up or maybe even actually gone ahead of them in many ways because, of course, the Mongols trade. I mean, trade has been nerfed quite heavily recently, and it's something they do still posture towards. Whether they'll do it on this map today is another question. The Abbasid dynasty, I think, a strong civilization all around, always have been, and they've got a couple of tricks up their sleeves, especially on a map like this. Whether you play for the mid-map and you go for docks or not, it's an interesting one. I think, you know, if the Abbasid dynasty do decide to do so, it could be a good option. Obviously, cheaper docks certainly helps, but the Mongols can challenge that with the double production of spearmen. I think generally going for water on this map up against the Mongols is a tough one, right? Because the Mongols always posture towards this. You know, even if they're going to not challenge the waters, they're going to do this anyway for outpost rushing. I think the opening here for the Mongols is very standard. Like, you're going to go for barracks and spearman rush. You know, because you're thinking about maybe denying dock positions. If there's not a dock, then you're going to try and deny just, you know, you do your usual Mongol things. You try and deny gold. That's forwardly placed here for Valdemar, which is a bit tricky. The Abids, they've got a couple of tricks up their sleeve, right? Go with the military wing. Can get double spearmen, double spearmen, double archers for free, really. As part of the military wing tech up, without having to place those production buildings. Can be a really nice way to deny an outpost rush opening. And actually, before this cast, during the downtime on Twitch, I stream live on Twitch these days, guys, so, you know, I do like to talk to Twitch chat sometimes. There was a question about, you know, is Mongols outpost rushing as viable as it used to be, or something to that effect, and I think the answer is no. Like, there are a lot of civilizations that can deal with it. You know, you've got the Chinese that can produce with the Imperial official supervising. You've got the HRE now that are, you know, powerhouses in terms of movement speed with the marching drills for free in the Dark Age on the Spearmen. Spearmen are faster now for the HRE than they are for the Mongols. You've got the Abbasid dynasty with military wing opening. Like, this military wing opening is a relatively new thing for this civilization. You pop out with double spearmen, double archers. And you know, those archers are perfect at dealing with the spearmen for the Mongols. That's just to name but a few civilizations that I think have done a lot better at dealing with this. I mean, another couple of civilizations that you just don't really spearman rush anyway, as the Mongols, you know, go up against the English is a big no-no. Going up against the Rus, there's no value to be had because the Rus hunting camps gather gold for them anyway. So the Mongol spearman rush is a bit of a sad state for them. I got to say that. I think it's a big identity for the Mongols as well. So if you take out the power of that opening for the Mongols, you take a big chunk out of what makes Mongols incredibly strong. Having said that, the time for the military wing is obviously, you know, you can't speed it up, so it's going to take 30 seconds. This outpost might be a bit dicey whether it goes up or not. If it does go up, it's actually going to be a pretty big thing because it's going to deny stone. He's trying to get that second town centre, Valdemar, as the Abbasid dynasty. They'll have to do that, of course. So denying a second town centre is actually pretty big. At least, or maybe delaying, I should say. I mean, maybe... this is close, right? Like, I think the military wing comes in time, and I'm not so sure this outpost goes up. Like, the outpost production building, or the building speed, the time it takes has been delayed. Like, it just takes a long time now, so it's really problematic. Alright, well, the outpost is being torched down, and there it is. There's the double archers, double spearmen pushing that away, and this is what we're talking about earlier in the cast, guys. It's tough to pull off the Mongols' outpost rush. I mean, I, for one, I'm pretty happy about that, but, you know, it's a big identity of the game and the civilization. How's it going, Tim? 10 for Tim. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate it, my dude. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. We're seeing Sassy versus Valdemar. Should be interesting. We'll see how this one pans out. Welcome in, raiders. It's going to be the silver tree, so he's going to go for trade. Not necessarily, actually, to be fair, but yeah, there's a good chance he will. Like, you know, obviously, deer stones could have been the option for him. Welcome in, everyone. Alrighty. So staying on stone, so we'll get that second town centre relatively soon because of that. And question is, where does Sassy go from here? It's going to go for a stable. Get some Keshiks. Now, the one thing I love about the Mongols, though, something that has changed for them, just word on this, though, like, the military wing wasn't just about denying the Mongol outpost rush. It's actually going to put some pressure on, which is actually problematic, because, like, this is tough. Like, I'm a bit surprised about the stable, actually, because how does he now deal with this? He's got spearmen and archers in his backyard, and sure, we can try and move out with spearmen without sort of any sort of mobility advantage. Unless the Khan gets involved, those two archers are going to continue to get value. Either way, on that thought, I don't necessarily hate this stable, because the Keshik is a really interesting unit for the Mongols. It's a relatively new unit. They never used to have the Keshik. And the reason why I'm quite optimistic about this play for Sassy is because if he does trade, one way of protecting that trade is with mobility, and also the fact that you get gold from trade, it's an outlet for the Mongols to spend that gold. In the feudal age, there's not that many ways to spend gold. There just isn't. Like, there aren't that many units that cost gold. In fact, there's probably only a handful of them. But the Mongols, though, they do get the Keshiks. You can, spend your gold on that. Thank you for the raid again, Eternal. Welcome in. Raiders, second raid in a quick succession. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Welcome on in. All right. There's the A jump. Now, bear in mind as well, this is hard. This is hard for the Mongols. Like, denying the outpost rush is such a big deal, because not only does it not, give the Mongols an advantage which they hope to achieve, but it's a big investment. It delays their feudal age, and now it means obviously he's going to be trying to get his feudal age on, but he's been behind on that quite a while. And second town centre now being built close to home, protecting the gold and that wood line. In a really nice spot, I'd say, because, in the most recent patch, the town centre placements are relatively conservative. They don't tend to go far out anymore, even with deer camps on the map, especially on this map, to be fair, because all the deer camps are kind of in the middle of the map. You don't really want to go that far out with your second town centre, especially because they already got 7 garrisonal spots. It's not a lot. Doesn't offer you all that much protection, and so this is a nice spot for him for sure. So the way this game is probably going to end up happening and moving into is trade for the Mongols, which the Abbasids are going to look to try and deny. This is a rough matchup, I think, in many ways on this map, because sure, he's got Keshiks, which will help, and ultimately Keshiks will beat Horsemen, but Horsemen numbers for the Ibids, or sorry, the Abbasids, I should say, they're going to be good, right? Because, of course, they get fresh foodstuffs, which is now from the mill. And so cheaper villages means more food to spend. Even with 2 town centres, they can still pump out horsemen at decent amounts, because the cheaper villages are so good. 32 food for a villager rather than usual 50. To have 2 town centres running isn't actually that much more expensive than just 1 town centre from all the other civilizations. So it's a really strong upgrade, fresh foodstuffs, and then getting horsemen to try and raid. To protect your trade is really hard as the Mongols. But if you do manage to do it, the payoff is massive too. High risk comes with high reward. It does take some time for the trade to really kick off, and bear in mind as well the trade income. For now, we stuck at gold until it gets a handful more traders, and will start to get food and gold as well. 77 gold, not too shabby at all. It's going to need to, continue to gain some map control, Sassy, if you can. And he's certainly doing it for now. But as the Abbasid dynasty economy starts to rock and roll, it could be tricky. Wheelbarrow comes on in now for Sassy. Going to increase the movement speed of those villagers. Yeah, he's going to play a really condensed economy, walling on up. But plenty of real estate to maybe farm transition if he needs to. Obviously, you don't really want to be doing that unnecessarily if you can avoid it. But ultimately, with the Mongols with a lot of map control, this is not looking too terrible a spot for Sassy, as long as he can get the trade up and running and safe and secure. It's a big if, but if you can do it, it's going to help. Should get the raiding bounty as well with this being set on fire relatively soon. But obviously, with only 1 trade post or 1 silver tree, it takes some time to build the trader numbers. Of course, traders can't fight back, so even a horseman with 11 HP will get some value. It's quite smart to do that as well, by the way. Use your weak units to try and harass the trade, because ultimately trade can't fight back. So it forces the Mongols to actually move units in that position to deal with the units that are relatively weak anyway, which the Spearman does well at dealing with. Valdemar now, they're starting to get the blacksmith upgrades and getting an outpost to protect that location on that gold. And slowly but surely it's going to start into a bit of a race to a castle age potentially, because whilst the production infrastructure is there, and it could just be the case he's just waiting for his economy to rock and roll, right? It's building up a massive units before he heads on out. But the great thing for the Abbasids that the Mongols don't have in this match is security and safety. So with the walls that are here for the Abbasids, they can feel comfortable moving out, and he might even extend the walls a little bit more just to protect him, you know, a bit more. But he can probably feel a bit more confident about moving out. It's got static defenses in the form of 2 town centers. There's only limited angles of approach for the Mongols, which is problematic because, you know, when you play with cavalry, you want to be able to attack from multiple locations, which actually now is not really possible for the Mongols. He's going to have to brute force his way down the middle, which is not a problem because the Abbasid dynasty, in the feudal age, they pump out units like no other. Bear in mind he went up with the feudal age, which gives them access to boot camp, which is incredibly strong for this infantry unit. It's going to be boosting up the HP, which I'll just double check if he has got it. He has indeed, and you know, it transitions quite nicely into the castle age if it does end up getting archer numbers with the composite bows upgrade. And so, yeah, the smoothness to the Abbasid dynasty is really nice. All those archers kind of got caught a little bit, moved a little bit too far forward for comfort, and the Keshik does get sniped though. For the Mongols, trying to get the outpost, doesn't quite manage, it loses the villager as well. Not ideal. Now bear in mind with the House of Wisdom, it does have tier 1 as well, so 15% gather rate on all the villagers. 2 town centers, cheaper villagers, 15% gather rate, with a very condensed and protected economy. On this map, the Abbasid dynasty looking pretty heftily strong. I mean, to be fair, the trade is still up and running. But you can see the eco difference already scaling really nicely. It's going out to the berries as well, and Abbasid dynasty looking strong as this game develops. The Mongols are going to go on to the... Wait, there's only 1 shorefish on this pond? Oh, there's 2. There's 2 though. Yeah, most of these ponds actually get 2 shorefish. I thought for a second he cancelled 1, but that'll be unusual to do, of course. And he hasn't. So, this is tricky because trade... The hard thing about trade is protecting it. And if you're busy protecting your trade, you're naturally going to be defensive. Like, trying to be aggressive and protecting trade that way is tough. You can try to be overly aggressive and try and force your opponent to react to you such that if they don't react to your aggression, then they just die. That's quite hard to achieve on the 13-minute mark of the game. And so what that forces the Mongols to naturally have to do is be more defensive. Like you can see all his units are on his half of the map. And when you think about Mongols having to be defensive, those things tend not to go together well. And being defensive like this is left with no option to do so, and it means every trader that gets sniped, it's rough to keep the trade alive. So he's going to lose a trader here for free. There's nothing he can do about it, really. He's going to have to try and split up his army, and if he gets it wrong, the split in any way, he'll lose a fight. Especially with the infantry numbers. The infantry obviously relatively slow. Does lose that trader in the end. Spearman in position, though. There comes a point, though, that the Mongols might start to mass up a good number of units that they can actually start splitting off and protect the trade route. But it's going to protect the whole map, whereas the Abbasids have to protect, well, not one screen of a map, right? Just this. This is all he has to protect, for now. Not to mention the static defenses coming up on the minimap. As you can see, the wall of red going to be protecting the gold vein and the deer camp at the back and give them really good real estate. Bear in mind as well, the horsemen actually obviously outrun the Keshiks, and so unless this happens, they should always be able to run away with it. And again, another group of horsemen going down the north, and spearmen are in position though now. So we're getting to the point of the game where actually the Mongols they could be looking decent to protect the trade. That's where things could help, but 2 town centers for the Abbasid dynasty. Meanwhile, what it comes down to is the fact that his economy is rocking and rolling, unharassed, untouched, undamaged. The Mongols one, the trade is always being harassed. Either way, Castle Age coming in now as the Eco Wing approaches for the Abbasids. No real sign of that for the Mongols. It's actually docked a lot of the ponds now. Again, it's a very expensive kind of play with 2 shore fish. It's not bad. Like 1,000 food is okay, but it's a big investment. It's not like you got cheaper docks like the Abbasids. And bear in mind, you have to invest in the fishing ships as well. But he does offer some protection with this light junk archer ship being a bit crazy, having a bit of a party. Oh, Keshiks won't want to engage that. Quite a lot of spearmen. Bear in mind as well, the spearmen are a really good unit for the Abbasids with the phalanx upgrade, increasing the range by +1. So in a melee fight, melee mosh pit, they can get a good hit for sure. They don't get crowded out. Kind of reminds you of the Onobligation in many ways. Great support unit for the Abbasids. The Onobligation, great support unit for the Japanese. And great powerhouse or power aspect of those 2 units is the extra little bit of range that comes in as a melee unit. Valdemar gets that castle age with the economic wing and immediately queues up the upgrades. Right, composite bows, definitely an upgrade he's going to want to get. He's got it in queue. Keshik having to ride away, does lose his life on the retreat. Now, Sassy's got to do one of 2 things. He's got to either be aggressive and do some damage, which is going to be very tough to do, right? Condensed economy, tightly packed, army at home, being upgraded. Or he has to go home and just trust that he has a good standing army to get himself to the castle age and get some upgrades. It's rough because ultimately, if he does back away Sassy, he doesn't have the static defenses in terms of walls to protect him when he gets to the castle age, which of course many other civilizations do. And he's going to be up against the castle age army, which, you know, Valdemar recognizes this, right? He recognizes that, okay, Sassy, 2 options. He either bees aggressive or tries to do some damage, or he heads back home, tries to get to the castle age himself, which if he does, then Valdemar has a window of opportunity when the upgrades are already in. He can pressurize. It's his time to do some damage before the upgrades come in for the Mongols. Those upgrades going to be some time away. With the Kurultai being built, it's being rushed down by 18 villagers. But again, he needs time. He needs time for the tech up still, and he needs time for those upgrades to come in. Time, however, is something that potentially he doesn't have on his hands. And this is the problematic situation when you have the Mongols being defensive, protecting trade, not being the aggressor, being in the castle age second to their opponent. You know, the 2 main ways to deny being pushed is having a good standing army and static defenses. You get cheaper outposts, to be fair, but no palisades means that Valdemar can attack from multiple locations. He's doing just that now. The Kurultai will help in the fight just a little bit, but he needs time for those upgrades to come in. Villagers garrisoning aside, a lot of idle time being caused. Horsemen diving in on the woodline, Sassy, and under all sorts of pressure. If he can defend this, maybe have a way of surviving in the game, but he's got to win this fight. Next fight is going to be huge. Spearmen bracing against the Keshik. Keshik numbers looking pretty decent. Mongol Khan getting involved. Spearman numbers are starting to dwindle somewhat here for the Abbasids. Now the upgrade there for the archers not quite in just yet. Going to come in now. And probably just as well. Fighting underneath the town centre. So good damage coming in for Valdemar, but he's losing a lot. He does actually lose most of his army here. Maybe a bit of overcommitment, especially with the veterans and the Keshiks coming in. And the good focus firing there for Sassy to take out the veteran spearmen from their Abbasids to allow the Keshiks to do the damage that they are now doing. And this is a good pushback for the Mongols. But bear in mind, now with this pushback coming on in, Valdemar doesn't have a standing army. But he does have static defenses, right? So even having lost the army, it's still going to be challenging for the Mongols to push this. Unless he gets some siege. Although one Keshik... Oh wait, this is a... I mean, it's going to be a good few villagers dying here. This is a veteran Keshik. Not going to be easy to fight this with villagers. Yeah, probably not a good idea there, Valdemar. Backs away. Yeah, now adding in the mosque, obviously players in the castle age are going to be transitioning to think about those relics. But Sassy does have a window of opportunity to do some damage. He needs to because he's behind an economy. He's got to break through the static defenses. At this point for Valdemar, the Abbasid's about holding, about getting a good army together again, just to defend and buy some time to get that army rocking and rolling again. But now he can reset, right? He lost a lot of feudal age army, he lost a lot of archers, lost a lot of horsemen, but now he can kind of commit to castle age units, heavily armored units. Whether it be the Gulam or camel riders, you name it, you can opt for it. Gonna go for a mangonel, which will definitely help deal with the heavy infantry-based army that the Mongols have right now. Gonna pack up the Kurultai, bring it on forward. Yep, definitely a lot further forward. Just gotta be careful about the mangonel though. Sassy could suffer some big damage if it focuses on the archers. Did focus on the archers. Got a bit of damage. Nothing to write home about. Second mangonel though is gonna be an issue. And the Abbasids, by the way, one of these civilizations that do this really well. When they take up to the next stage, it's not so much just the units being upgraded, it's the potential of siege like this. Or they might snap out a mangonel. Will you get it? No, it's in position. And so what this does, it forces the enemy into reacting to that, either with a unit that can try and deal with the mangonel. Well, I mean, that is what they need to do. They can go for man-at-arms, they're pretty tanky, but, you know, with one mangonel, you could possibly snipe one. With 2, 3, it becomes a bit more difficult, and it means that the Mongols will have to get some springords. To be fair, the Mongols are in a good spot. They should be able to bring this, build those springords on the ground. Not a lot of other civilizations can do that, but you will need to research siege engineering, improve siege engineering to do so. Keshik riding in on the gold. But again, Valdemar, you know, playing condensed economy, it's not hard for him to just shift his attention to wherever he's being poked and prodded, and this sort of situation definitely favors a civilization with a better economy, because the Mongols are struggling to do damage, and that's really what they need to do at this situation. Gonna break on through. But he's still got a bit of a maze to travel on through, and there's a bit of an overchop there. Valdemar's got to be careful. Will he spot that or not? I'm not so sure. Like, he should know about that. He obviously got the attack notification of the army breaking on through, and he is reacting. He's going to push those villagers away and move elsewhere. But a bit of a labyrinth for the Mongols to try and break their way through. It's hard, right, to break through all of this, especially when, you know, the standard defenses buys time for the Abbasids just to reposition themselves. And what's quite hard for the Mongols to deal with is the fact that the Abbasids will start to really scale their Hours of Wisdom Golden Age. Might have to come back onto that. Could see the engagement soon. The research speed is obviously coming, but the big one is the tier 3, right? 20% production speed on military buildings. And villager gather rate 20% as well. So they really do start to ramp up in production. Speaking of production, or well, not so much production, but let's take a look at trade. 85 gold, 8 food, it's got 8 wood, and 17 traders in total. Oh, Keshiks around the back, they snuck their way through. We'll get some raiding out of this. Of course, there's not much that Valdemar can do. He can't push back with these units. He has to just try and trust that his empire back at home can defend themselves and get this kind of reinforcements. Well, the tricky part is he's got 200 population, so losing some villagers will then allow him some population space to deal with that. But he's got to make his way through now. The trouble for the Mongols now, they're being pushed, which is really not what they want. Blacksmith gets taken down. A lot of torch damage coming in from the Spearman and Gulam. Starting to head a bit further forward. Double Springald. Kurultai playing defensive, which is again not a nice picture for the Mongols. It's not usually what they want to be doing. Around the back. Oh, this time he'll be okay. We still will lose a couple of villagers, but the Keshik was a little bit low on health anyway. He takes the engagement here. Mangonel's about to deploy. 2 Springals over the Mongols, push them away. Gulam numbers looking pretty decent on the front line for Valdemar. This could be difficult for the Mongols to deal with. Does have a decent number of crossbowmen though, actually. This won't be a terrible fight, I don't think, for Sassy. I think he could come out on top of this. I think the 2 Springals kind of saved him. If the Mangonel's got free reign of the situation, it would be a different picture entirely. I think he's being raided on the trade. Here's a little bit with a couple of spearmen. Oh, Mangonel do deploy, loses one, about to lose a second here. Valdemar, maybe he will. And 2 Springals survive it for the Mongols. That's actually pretty important because he'll save those for another wave of attack, which is undoubtedly coming in. The Mongols looking good to take out that front line of the Gulam. Once that goes down, it's just primarily ranged units. It's going to be ranged units versus ranged units, though. No Mangonel for Sassy. Actually, to be fair, Valdemar going to take a decent trade. Don't forget, and the composite bows is in. He's got boot camp as well, so the ranged units here, pound for pound, they are just better for the Abbasids, although the couple of Keshiks riding on in, and now, yeah, for sure, defender's advantage is going to help significantly. Around the back, Keshik's getting good raiding here, got to say. Killing villagers on gold. Trade, though, being still harassed by a spearman and a gulam. Crazy game so far. Action all over. Keshik chasing a mass of villagers. Something the Abbasid's found a little bit difficult to deal with. Like, you can't fight that with villagers, really. 1 or 2 Keshiks getting a lot of value for Sassy, I gotta say. Coral type deploying once again. Keshik's still not dealt with. Well, 2 sacred sites. Oh, sorry, 2 relics rather for the Mongols have already been brought in. 1 for the Abbasids, and speaking of sacred sites, yeah, there is 1 already capped there for the Mongols. Behind all of this, trade wing, going to go for the Imperial Age. Of course, it's not so much the trade going to be factoring just yet, but just tearing himself just for the late game, in case it gets there. Oh, this Keshik. I wish we had like a kill count on individual units. Can't imagine how many he's killed so far. It does die in the end, but he's done well for the Mongols. Speaking of which, Kortai is being deployed further forward, and units healing on up. Going to be buffed a little bit for the next incoming fight. Now, the big concern is obviously Valdemar up to the Imperial Age soon. The Mongols nowhere near that, and that's, you know, the powerhouse of the Abbasid dynasty economy is really paying off for itself very quickly. And with the Imperial Age coming in, going to get the upgrades, it's going to be difficult for the Mongols to really do much about that. Ultimately, I think the way the game's going, it's going to be about the Mongols doing some damage in the next 5-10 minutes. If it doesn't, I think he's probably going to be out of the game. We'll see what he can achieve here, the Mongols, if he can push his way through. Does have 2 sacred sites to his name as well, picking up another 2 relics. So late game, you know, might not be too bad for the Mongols. Whether they can match up to an Abbasid late game or not, I'm not so sure. Abbasid late game is pretty spectacular. Look to start pushing on through down the middle now. Break through the palisades and charge his way through. The Abbasid's got good unit numbers. Mostly infantry, taking advantage of the boot camp upgrade, of course. Plenty of springalds as well, so going to deal with mangonels on the field. So Valdemar trusting in his infantry to win the fights. Getting the springalds just in case there are any mangonels. Valdemar gets to the Imperial Age now, and he's going to take the fight even in the Castle Age. Wallow, Sassy trying something. He needs to try something. He gets sniped. Doesn't quite manage to get the Wallow off, and that's such a good number of those Gulam crossbowmen's numbers start to dwindle. Limit does have 2 mangonels. 1 gets sniped, the second about to as well. Behind the stealth forest does deploy and get a good shot on the Gulams, but they're pretty tanky. Got a good number of range units behind this, and Valdemar hasn't been able to afford too many upgrades actually once it's in the Imperial Age. Gulam numbers start to thin down a little bit. Does have another mangonel that does deploy on the man-at-arms, take a decent amount of the HP off of them. But I think Valdemar is quite happy to just trade this and does take another mangonel out. Traction trebuchet. I gotta say, I've seen this unit so many times and it always just seems useless, but it is what it is. He's trying to find a way to deal some structural damage. Spearman charging on through. And the springalds might get close to the traction trebuchet and take that out pretty quickly, although there's focus on the army for now. Sassy struggling. Valdemar starting to win that fight. Don't forget, Sassy is an age behind. Valdemar struggling on gold, actually. This is something you have to consider. He's run out of gold. He's going to have to fight for the middle. Does have 2 gold veins here, but take a look at this. Sassy denying this gold on the west side with Keshiks. And this gold is not really taken as an outpost there for that vision for the Mongols, and so that's a problematic situation. Valdemar just focusing on trash units, i.e. food and gold units, and getting good rates here, Sassy. He's not out of the game just yet. If we can deny the gold from the Abbasids, that could be massive. But he's gotta gather some pace here and to keep denying the gold veins. If the Abbasids get onto the gold once again, could be problematic. He only has 1 relic as well, bear in mind, so not too much passive gold coming on in. Sassy actually looking in a decent spot here. If he can get to the Imperial Age himself, it will take some time. So I think that's something that's great for the Abbasids. He's got time to set up the trade, which is now up and running shortly. Well, he's got a lot of trades, to be fair. already quite quickly. So yeah, I think this western part of this map is actually going to be really important for both players, right? You've got gold and trade, and you know the Mongols actually identifying that, going to get 2 outposts. This screen at the moment is going to be a really key area of this map in the next 5-10 minutes. I think it's going to be decisive on who wins this. I think the Mongols have to challenge it, right? Because he's got to get rid of the option of the 2 gold veins, but also the trade. Trouble for the Mongols, he doesn't really have the momentum. He's going to go with the White Stupa. Obviously needs to invest a lot of resources in that Imperial Age. Then needs to get Imperial Age upgrades. Meanwhile, in terms of upgrades, they're coming in for the Abbasids. In fact, he didn't actually have phalanx. So he was missing that earlier on in the game, but he's getting it now. It comes on in. And especially with the quick research time for the Abbasids, it's pretty fast, 15%. Or 20% actually at this point now. Now there is at Golden Age Tier 3. Yeah, but Valdemar stabilized once again. The question is whether wood is going to become a problem. It might actually just... Wait, wood is actually an issue. There's kind of 2 small wood lines to gather from. Does have a couple of more pockets, but they're kind of being used as walls as well, so you have to be careful not to over chop and chop through. There's the Imperial Age. Now I wonder where the Valdemar pushes, right? He recognizes it takes some time for the Mongols to get the tech ups, and now might be the go time. Well, he doesn't really have that many upgrades himself, to be fair. At least in terms of elite status. Does have a lot of blacksmith upgrades, which is certainly a good intermediary. Oh, traction trebuchet deploys. Will get taken down pretty quickly. Trying to get us around the call tower. That could be pretty big to snipe, actually. That can be a big game changer in fights, and that is exactly what happens. Spearman gets surrounded. He's going to commit to that. Losing Spearman at this point is not really a problem. Is there an escape? I'm not so sure. Couple of Golem on the west side. Going to get sniped by the crossbowman. This is where the main action is. Oh, crawled out. We just escaped out of there. But it's on fire, and it gets... I think it does go down in the end, actually. Unfortunately, it does, yeah. It burnt to the ground, to a crisp. But yeah, miniature numbers still looking good here for Valdemar on the front. Bit of raiding here on that wood line, that's massive. Valdemar really struggling on wood, and you know, Sassy doing great work here to recognize that, but the Spearman going to chew through those pretty quickly down the middle. That's where the pressure's coming in from the Abbasids. Oh, Mangana deploys, should get a good shot on them. Oh, that's devastating. Lost a lot of HP on those guys. And he's still raiding with a couple of Golem on the trade. Does have 29 traders, but I think actually, you know, Valdemar has exactly the same number. It's the gold coming in. Look at the gold bank. Look at the food bank for Valdemar. Looking strong. So going to keep pumping out units. 200 population. Sassy stuck at 150 at this point. And the big concern is Sassy's economy is going to be under pressure very soon in the form of trade. And again, we talk about how hard it is to defend trade at times. Now's that time. He's going to lose a lot of economy. This could be the killer death blow, actually. Losing the traders here. It's going to be rough. That's going to cut off gold supply for the Mongols in a big way. It doesn't really have much of a bank of it, of course. Without gold, he's not going to have the premium units which he wants to have. Having to rely on elite horsemen. We'll get some of the siege engines, actually. Good snipe, good flank off there. This is looking rough. Especially now the trade is being pressurized. Horsemen might get rid of a lot of the infantry here. Going to keep on the trade as well. With that keep, I think it would be pretty difficult for Sassy to build on out from here, because he doesn't really have a way of dealing with the keep. Traction trebuchets aren't really the answer. If they get sniped, of course, and, well, it's got a lot of units. Valdemar pushing through the middle. Kurultai still not really working for the Mongols at all. Trade continues for the Abbasids, and getting control of this gold vein is going to be massive. Going to be able to keep getting keeps in the forward positions. Exactly, another keep. And this is not looking great for the Mongols. The push is coming on in, and it's slow and steady. And the traders are going to be going down. There's no real trade route remaining. 18 traders, but they're not going to survive for too long underneath that keep. And that means no gold for the Mongols. It means no premium units. It probably means no bueno for the Mongols as the game continues. Down to 85 economy units, and Valdemar, as long as he keeps up momentum, is flooding units. As you can see, trickling on through down the middle. He's pumping, he's spending everything he's got. And really against the Mongols as well, like, there are only certain targets you need to focus on. Trade is one of them. He's pretty much dealt with that with the keep. The next is going to be underneath the town centre, possibly with the sheep. The number of villages on that. If that gets harassed, it'll be problematic. He's already going for the wood line quite heavily. He's holding on for now though, Sassy. Just got to find a way to stabilise somehow. It's really tricky without palisade walls. And hand cannoneers being added in. That's probably the final call. That's probably the final unit that he needs here to see this game out. And he's walling up the trade as well. Continues to pump out units. He's going to dive in. Yeah, we talked about there were 3 focal points to challenge. One was the trade, then it was the wood line. Now it is going to be the town centre and the food that's there, and there's no way to protect those villages. The Mongols trying to fight on two fronts, and they've got too much on their hands on this side already. And the villagers going down here will mean that the game will be over for Sassy. That's going to be too difficult to come back from. Losing the villages down to 56 villagers in total. The Mongols struggling to keep the villager count alive and protect the villagers. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Sassy taps out. A great game of Age of Empires for the trade. Was a play for the Mongols, but he just couldn't keep it alive for long enough. Couldn't keep it protected, and the momentum for the Abbasid just spiraled out of control. Hope you guys enjoyed this castle game on YouTube. If you did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Take care, and see you next time.